Today we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family. And over the years I have learned a few very important lessons about family life, both from my original family. We say in the monastery our family of origin, my mother, father, brother, and also my monastic family. These are lessons which have held true in both cases for me. And I think they're good lessons for us to take away. The first lesson I learned to be normal was when I was doing my psychological clearance to enter the Abbey. To those who do not know, when someone is applying to seminary or to a religious order in the Catholic Church, the good ones, at least, always send the new candidate to get a rather exhaustive testing done with a psychologist. Apparently they want to make sure we can handle the stress well and that we're not going to snap. So I get to be quite like Sheldon Cooper and say, I'm not crazy, they had me tested. But in it, one of the questions was, describe your family. I looked at it and thought for a minute and just went, we put the fun in dysfunctional. And the psychologist had that reaction. He chuckled and smiled. I later found out in the report that he wrote that because of the way I responded to that question, the way I looked at my family and explained my answer, it showed that I was normal and well-adjusted. Because the lesson I've learned both from my family of origin and the monastic family is that all families have chaos. They all have problems. Black sheep. Moments where you are extremely happy, loved, and cared for. And moments where you will honestly think to yourself, if I punch him, will he press charges? Don't resort to violence. But we are all flawed people. It's one of the reasons I think the Lord so many times reminds us to be patient, to be compassionate, to foster humility and gentleness, to forgive one another. We hear that today in the words of St. Paul to the Colossians. We also hear of the importance of not being willful in our desires to upset people. We will upset people. Everyone will have moments where you will fight, where you will argue. All children will have moments where their parents have to chastise them, correct them, discipline them. Sometimes literally give them a toss up a flight of stairs when they're fighting with their little brother. A feat which I'm still amazed my dad was able to do. I had like 80 pounds on him, and I cleared 4 steps. But we're called to look after each other, to love each other. And love doesn't always mean being polite and avoiding confrontation or avoiding conflict. Some of the best monasteries are not the ones where everybody walks around with a smile. In my experience, some of the best monasteries and families are the ones where people are comfortable and honest with each other. Families where you're not afraid to look at your son or even your mother or father and go, wait a minute, hold on. The Lord calls us today to do in word and deed everything in the name of the Lord, to look after each other and care for each other. So we must. But likewise, another lesson I have learned from both my families is the importance not only to treat others as we would like to be treated, but to also flip that at times on its head. We must at times treat ourselves as we would want others to treat us. Both are important. We must always be patient and kind to each other, but we also can't forget, particularly in these times of lockdown and difficulty and things of that nature, the importance of what is often called by psychologists self-care. Looking after our own mental and physical well-being, whether that's going for a run or a walk, whether that's taking a long bath or eating an enormous pizza by yourself. Because if you believe in yourself, any size pizza is a personal pizza. Trust me, I was 300 pounds. It can be done. But we must look after ourselves and our family. Because if we ourselves are not in a place where we are mentally and physically able, it's all the more difficult for us to help those around us who are struggling. Some things priests are obligated to do, for example, is, at least in the monastic communities, we have to take a retreat every year. It's not optional. Canon law says do it. Because the church knows we have to take care of ourselves in order to help others. We must look after our own spiritual health in order to help the spiritual health of others. This is true for all of us. Yes, some of us might have children that take up our time, might have jobs that cause us chaos. But if we want to grow in the faith, if we want to grow spiritually, if we want to be healthy mentally, we must make those times. Not when we have the time, but when we don't have the time, to make priorities those elements of self-care, to look after our spiritual, our physical, and our mental well-being. Because if we don't, it's all the more harder for us to look after those around us. And yes, according to the psychologist who interviewed me, all families have some type of dysfunctionality. It's what makes us unique and wonderful. We are not the Holy Family of Nazareth. We are not God, uncreated perfection. The Blessed Virgin, created perfection. And the poor husband who's stuck with that, knowing for full well that any argument, he's wrong. We're not that. We're all humans. We're all mortals. But we are all called to look after each other in patience and kindness, humility and gentleness. Never to overly grieve people, never to needlessly cause tension or problem. But we still are called to cause tension and problem at times when appropriate. But we won't know if it's coming from a true place of God's call, or if it's coming from our own disorder, if we don't make keeping our life in order a priority as well. So I encourage you to love each other, to always, as the Lord commands, treat others as you would want to be treated. But likewise, don't forget, at least occasionally, to treat yourself as you would want to be treated by others.